She stood in the acid rain under a flickering neon sign, clutching a cracked music orb that glowed like a dying star. "Please," she whispered to the pharmacist, "just one dose." He sneered, until a cold voice behind him said, "Give it to her, or I start counting bullets." The neon light outside the pharmacy flickered like it couldn't decide whether to die or keep watching. Dravencore kept his hand steady on the pistol. The clerk's smirk melted into silence. Behind the counter, rows of sealed med strips reflected in the glass. Tiny miracles that no one below the upper decks could afford. "Put the gun down, man. I'm just doing my job," the clerk stammered. Draven's voice stayed low. "Then your job's about to improve." He nodded toward the trembling child. "Give her one vial." "The right one, not the cheap synth." The man hesitated, reading the insignia band on Draven's wrist. Former security, still dangerous. He slid a small vial across the counter with shaking fingers. Draven caught it, holstered the weapon, and turned to the girl. Up close, she looked even younger, maybe 7. Skin faintly blue, hair like strands of melted gold. The cracked music orb in her palm pulsed dimly, echoing her heartbeat. "What's your name?" he asked. "Rin." Her voice cracked, but her stare didn't waver. "Where's your mother?" Rin pointed toward the rain-soaked street beyond the glass. "She couldn't walk anymore. I left her under the vent pipe so the heat would keep her warm." The words hit harder than the cold wind outside. Draven's throat tightened. Memories of other patients he'd failed clawed at him. He'd sworn never to get involved again. Yet here he was, kneeling in the rain beside an alien child with a dying parent. He wrapped his coat around her shoulders and handed over the vial. "You can't carry her alone." "Show me." Rin hesitated, suspicion flickering through her bright eyes. "You're human. Humans don't help us." "Then maybe I'm broken," he said. Something in that answer made her trust him. She nodded once and led the way into the alley. The deeper they went, the louder the city hummed, a metal heartbeat echoing through dripping pipes. They passed graffiti scrawled across the walls. "We bleed blue." When they reached the ventilation tunnel, Draven saw the faint silhouette of a woman slumped against the steel. Her breath was shallow, skin veined with a silver glow. Rin knelt beside her. "Mom, I found help." Draven crouched, pressing 2 fingers to the woman's neck. The pulse fluttered like a dying spark. He whispered almost to himself, "Not on my watch." Rain hissed against the metal as the city above kept pretending nothing was wrong. Draven's hand pressed against Saris's throat, feeling for rhythm. 1, 2, pause. Then nothing certain. Her skin burned with a faint metallic heat. The rain had mixed with the leaking coolant from the vents, staining everything in a dull gray shimmer. "She's burning up," he muttered. "The vial's not enough." Rin held out the tiny container he'd forced the clerk to hand over. Her fingers shook. "Please. It's all I have." Draven cracked the seal with his teeth and injected the serum into the woman's arm. The liquid hissed as it entered her bloodstream, leaving faint trails of blue light beneath her skin. For a second, nothing changed. Then Saris's chest rose, uneven but alive. Rin's breath hitched. "Did it work?" "Maybe," he said, "but she needs more than medicine. She needs clean air, warmth, time." He looked around the narrow tunnel, rust, dripping pipes, discarded wires. "And none of that exists down here." A mechanical whir echoed overhead. Draven's eyes snapped upward. 3 surveillance drones glided through the steam, their sensors sweeping red lines across the corridor. His wristband vibrated once. An alert code. Unauthorized use of medical stock. Report to command. "Damn it," he whispered. He'd triggered a system trace when he authorized the vial. The station knew. Rin clutched her mother's hand. "Are they coming for us?" "For me," he said, "and they'll step over you to get to me." He pulled a small square device from his coat, pressed it against the tunnel wall. A low hum built until the metal rippled outward, forming a circular opening just big enough to crawl through. Rin stared. "You have a secret door?" "Old habit," he said, half smiling. "Never throw away a good escape." He lifted Saris carefully, the woman's head falling against his shoulder. The weight was nothing compared to the guilt pressing through his ribs. "Hold the light," he told Rin. The cracked orb glowed, guiding them through the dark passage. Behind them, drones clattered closer. The hole sealed shut as the last one fired, a thin red beam slicing the air where Draven's boot had been. Inside the tunnel, darkness swallowed them, broken only by the faint pulse of the toy in Rin's hands. Its glow flickered once, stronger this time, as if answering something unseen. Draven noticed. "What is that thing?" Rin hugged it close. "It was my father's. He said it could fix anything." Draven looked ahead, heart hammering. Then let's hope he was right. The tunnel stretched upward toward the forgotten layers of the spire, where rescue and ruin waited together in the same breath. Draven's apartment wasn't much to look at. One narrow room carved into the underbelly of the spire's upper deck. The walls hummed faintly from the power conduits running beneath them, and the air smelled of sterilizer and old metal. To most people, it would feel cold. To Rin, it was paradise. Clean, dry, and quiet. "Sit here," Draven said, lowering Saris onto the small cot. She was conscious but weak, her breathing shallow. The blue glow under her skin had dimmed, but hadn't vanished. Rin hovered close, the cracked orb still clutched against her chest. "Will she live?" Draven knelt beside Saris, checking the readings on his wrist scanner. "If I can stabilize the nanites before they reach her lungs, yes." Nanites. Tiny machines. Somebody poisoned her on purpose. Rin's eyes widened. Who would do that? The kind of people who build cities above clouds and forget who cleans the filters beneath them. His tone was sharp but calm, anger disguised as discipline. Rin tilted her head. "You talk like someone who hates this place." "I helped design it," he said quietly. She blinked. "Then why help us now?" He didn't answer right away. He was busy preparing a fresh dose, mixing compounds in a small glass vial. Finally, he said, "Because I couldn't stand watching another kid lose their mother while people with uniforms call it policy." Rin smiled faintly, a small, knowing kind of smile. "You're weird." Draven looked up from the vial. "That's one word for it." A faint sound broke the silence. The music orb in Rin's hands gave a soft, chiming note. The light from its cracked surface pulsed in rhythm with Saris's breathing. Draven frowned. "That thing reacts to her vitals." Rin nodded. "It always sings when she gets better." He leaned closer, intrigued. "That's not a toy, Rin." "It's tech. Old, maybe alien biotech." Rin hugged it tighter. "It's hers." "You can't take it, I won't," he said gently. "Just don't let it out of your sight." Saris stirred, her voice barely a whisper. "You're not one of them, are you?" Draven shook his head. "Not anymore." Outside, thunder rolled across the spire, distant but constant, the sound of a city pretending to sleep. Inside, three strangers sat in the quiet hum of machinery and found something rare, the first fragile breath of trust. Draven barely slept that night. Every flicker of the apartment's light strip made him think of search drones. Each hum in the pipes felt like footsteps above. Still, he kept working, running scans, stabilizing Saris, checking data patterns from the music orb. Something about the readings didn't make sense. The signal wasn't random. It was broadcasting coordinates. By morning, Saris was strong enough to stand. Her violet eyes carried both gratitude and suspicion. "You've been up all night," she said softly. "Old habits," he replied, pouring himself a cup of synth coffee. "Sleep gets in the way of surviving." Before she could respond, the console beside him beeped, an encrypted transmission flashing red. Draven's stomach dropped. It wasn't random interference. It was a trace. His trace. Someone had found them. Saris read his expression instantly. "They're coming." "Not yet," he said, opening the feed. A familiar face appeared on the hollow. Director Vance, his former commander. Silver uniform, perfect posture, voice calm as ever. "Draven," Vance said, "you've made quite the mess. Bringing contaminated subjects into restricted zones violates every code you wrote." Draven's jaw clenched. "You created the contamination." Project Veil wasn't a cure, it was control. Vance smiled thinly. "Control maintains peace. You of all people should understand order." Rin peeked from behind the cot, clutching her glowing orb. He's lying, she said. Vance's eyes narrowed. And this must be the anomaly. The child carrying my prototype Draven's blood ran cold. Your prototype? Her toy, Vance said, contains the nanite seed that could neutralize the virus. Return it, and I'll forget this ever happened. Sarah stepped between them on instinct, even though Vance was only a projection. You'd kill her to keep your secret. Vance's voice softened dangerously. Sacrifice is how civilizations survive. Draven cut the transmission and turned to Saris. We need to move. But it was already too late. The lights flickered red. Station alarms blared. Someone had triggered an override from the outside. Rin's eyes filled with fear. They're here! Draven grabbed his medbag. Not if we leave first. He looked at Saris. Part command, part plea. Can you walk? I can fight, she said. The orb in Rin's hands pulsed brighter than ever, casting blue light across their faces. It wasn't just reacting, it was awakening. And somewhere above, the system that ruled their world was waking up too. The elevator shuddered as it climbed toward the upper rings. Sparks danced along the walls, the result of Draven's improvised override. Sirens echoed below, each one a countdown. Rin sat pressed between him and Saris, her small hands cupped around the glowing orb. Its light had turned steady now, no longer flickering. Alive, aware. Saris exhaled slowly. We can't outrun an entire station. Draven met her eyes. Then we stopped running. The doors slid open into the abandoned laboratory at the tower's core, a place that smelled of ozone and old guilt. Hollow screens still flickered with the crest of the Spire Authority. Rows of containment pods lined the walls, each one holding the faint outline of bodies that would never wake. Rin stepped forward, whispering, "This is where they made me." Draven's stomach twisted. He'd read reports about test subjects, but seeing it stripped away every justification he'd once believed. Not anymore, he said. He connected his wristband to the central console. If I upload the data inside that toy, it'll trigger the Cure network through the Spire's filters. Saris hesitated. And you? It'll trace back to my ID. They'll erase me before the upload finishes. Rin looked up at him, eyes shimmering. You can't die. You promised to fix her. Draven smiled faintly. I did fix her. He reached out, resting a hand on the girl's shoulder. Now you fix everyone else. He guided Rin's hands onto the console. The orb unfolded like petals, releasing a pulse of blue light that raced through the room. The alarms cut off mid-scream. The hum of the Spire shifted, the filters coming alive, spreading the Cure through every level. Vance's voice crackled through the intercom, furious. You'll destroy everything? Draven answered quietly. No. I'm saving what's left. He pulled the manual breaker. Electricity arced, white hot, then silence. When the light faded, Saris was kneeling beside him. He was breathing, barely. Outside the window, the storm clouds below glowed with soft blue veins, the planet healing itself. Rin pressed her tiny hand to his. It worked. Draven's eyes fluttered open. Told you. Old habits. Saris smiled through tears. You stubborn man. He looked at them, mother and child alive, and exhaled. Worth it. The Spire hummed quietly, reborn. He had found an alien girl trying to trade her only toy for painkillers, and ended up giving a broken world back its breath. The storms below Echelon Spire drifted slower that night, their violet glow reflected in the glass towers above. For the first time in years, the air smelled clean. The city that had forgotten how to breathe finally took one long, silent breath. In a small room high above the clouds, Rin's laughter broke the stillness. The cracked orb, now whole again, pulsed gently in her hands, casting soft light across Saris's face. She looked out the window, eyes tired but peaceful. He did it, she whispered. Draven's coat still hung by the door, its fabric singed from the final surge. It swayed slightly each time the ventilation hummed, like a heartbeat that refused to fade. Rin pressed her forehead against the glass. Do you think he can see us? Saris smiled faintly. If he could fix the sky, I think he can see anything. Outside, the light spread wider, healing, quiet, unstoppable. The Spire stood different now, not just metal and law, but proof that kindness could still rewrite the rules. And somewhere in that calm hum of rebirth, a voice, his voice, seemed to whisper through the air ducts, "Keep breathing. The hard part's over." The camera drifts upward through the endless layers of the city, passing neon signs now dimmed, towers coated in rain, and faces lifted to clean air. Above it all, the repaired music orb glows like a second sun,